Thank you very much for staying with us, and I hope that you've been enjoying the program so far. Fresh revelations at the Senate plenary on Tuesday indicated that ranking senators got 500 million naira each for their constituency projects in the 2024 budget passed by the National Assembly. According to Senate rules, any lawmaker who has spent at least a term in the House of Representatives or Senate is considered a ranking senator. On the list of senators in the 10th Senate, at least 34 of them are ranking. With the revelation at the plenary on Tuesday that senior senators got 500 million naira each, the ranking senators must have got a total of 17 billion naira as their constituency projects votes. Whoa. Yes. Biodu showed me a social commentator. Excuse me.
I also that your voices became padded.
Biodu showed me a social commentator joins us from our studio in Abuja to discuss this matter. Mr. Showme, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to see you again. We haven't seen you in a while.
Nice to see you.
And
nice to see you.
You are now in Abuja. Are there plans for, you know what I mean?
just in Abuja, you know, for my own purposes.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mr. Showme. Okay, Mr. Showme. Now, this matter of budget padding, on account of which Senator Ningi has been suspended. When you heard or when you saw what happened on Tuesday, because it was televised live, and I'm sure being a social commentator, you would have seen it. When you witnessed those scenes, what went through your mind regarding the goings on in the Senate?
Well, in the first instance, I think there are a lot of issues which the whole debate and the suspension threw. In the first instance, when you look at Ningi's allegation, of course, totally unfounded, the allegation that 25 billion naira was presented, you know, to the National Assembly. You know, that figure didn't exist. Tinubu presented 27.5 trillion. And then the same Senate, you know, upped it up to 28.7, had the 1.2 trillion to it. So Ningi should have known that the 25 trillion figure did not exist to start with, and he participated in the whole processes. He's a very, very experienced senator. Now, the other aspect is, how do you deal with a situation like that?
I beg your pardon, Mr. Showme.
Senate has...
I beg your pardon.
Yes.
The Minister of Budget acknowledges that the budget proposed and sent to the National Assembly was 25.2 trillion. And what was approved was 28.7. That's from the minister himself.
I am not aware of that. If you go back as far back as November, the figure which we have, which is, you can Google it, it's 27.5 trillion.
I am on Google.
They may as well...
I quoted that from Google.
Okay. They may as well have prepared a budget for 25, but what was reported that I read, and which later subsequently also reported that 1.2 trillion was added to that budget. That is before Ningi. Before Ningi, we have had this controversy over why should they increase the budget, you know, by 1.2 trillion. You will recall that.
Yes.
So when we've had that debate, Ningi himself was part of the whole processes. If he had any issues, he should have raised them at the point of approval, not to wait till after approval. And in any case, for me, I don't think that is the real issue that Ningi is trying to point attention to. Ningi is only playing on the North-South dichotomy. He made absolute reference to the fact that he believed the North.
I was reading Minister Fashola's book, talking about national discourse. And one of the things he raised, the former governor of Lagos State, one of the issues he raised is the corruption perception index. And he said something vital. He said, at least that I think is vital, that most of the time when we talk about the CPI, corruption perception index, our focus is on the corruption itself and not the perception, which the report actually indexes, and not the act of the corruption, the perception of corruption. How much of that do you think has played out so far, particularly in the light of the reactions that people have had to this particular issue of 3.7 trillion naira not being accounted for? And of course, you saw the reaction of senators generally to that, which occasioned the punitive measure meted out to Senator Ningi. How much of this perception issue would you say is significant, that has smeared the National Assembly, particularly the Senate, more than is necessary?
Yeah, on this issue of perception, I would say Ningi, again, presented himself, very negatively. I would have been more comfortable with Ningi just talking about the issues of the budget without linking it, to his own, to his own ethnic or zonal area in the country. That shows he presented himself as not only biased but as an ethnic national champion, and I'm not comfortable with that. When you now again look at the issues which he raised, he threw up issues that created the impression that there were infractions, financial infractions, in that budget. And that precisely, I think, is why the Senate had to sanction him. I would have been more comfortable if he has been referred, to Senate Privileges Committee, Ethics and Privileges Committee, so that there is a proper hearing and then recommendation to the Senate on the appropriate sanctions to be taken. But that didn't happen. Yes, I agree. He actually brought the Senate into disrepute. But when you look at the whole furore surrounding this issue, the impression being created, which is the perception, even though this budget has not been really implemented, they're just beginning to implement the budget. Now, the impression being created is as if there are infractions, as if some 3 trillion naira was meant to be shared somewhere, when in reality there's no proof of that currently. And we do not have even any evidence that that funds has been released in any form to National Assembly for constituency projects. And also, nobody has made any allegation about theft of public funds or corruption. But the fact of the matter is, the whole controversy has created a perception problem, which is about, they have started again, they are deserving 3 trillion naira to be shared, they have started with constituency projects and all that. These are just about perception. They are not real as at today. That does not excuse the fact that we do not have financial infractions or corruption cases, in any of the two arms in the National Assembly. That is not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that it's too early in the life of this budget, and I don't think we even have the resources to fund it currently. And I'm sure probably the Minister for Finance is busy trying to look at where to get the money to fund it. But already, the controversy created has created the perception of wrongdoing, the perception of corruption, which, in my view, currently is not real because we do not have any evidence to back it up.
But Mr. Showme, we heard on that day that 500 million had been given each to ranking senators, totaling 17 billion. That money had all, because some of them actually admitted that they collected 500 million each.
Well, I heard that too, but my own understanding of how constituency projects work is that the cash is not actually given to those senators, that they are allowed to nominate projects. Maybe this is different now, I don't know. But in the past, they are allowed to nominate projects and then also nominate contractors. And through that, the funds are paid to those contractors directly. Of course, that gives room, for some bargaining, some negotiations between the proxy contractor, and whoever constituency projects is being implemented. So we all know that system. But in reality, those projects are usually executed, in those constituencies. But if indeed it is true that 500 million naira is given directly to senators, to implement projects. Again, I would say currently we still do not have any evidence that they have not implemented that project because it's too early, in the year. This is March.
Okay.
If in reality they have been given, then I would say that they've left themselves vulnerable to perception of being corrupt, one. Number two, what is their business, trying to execute projects directly? Who will now carry out oversight functions on those projects?
Okay.
They will now be reneging on one of the major duties of a legislator, of a senator. If they are doing the project themselves, then who will now carry out the oversight function?
Okay.
And also, it leaves them in a weaker position, of being able to carry out oversight functions on executive projects because they themselves are involved in the process of execution of projects. So these are serious concerns which needs to be relooked into by the National Assembly with a view to ensure that we can erase the perception of corruption even when they are not real, but simply because of the current practices of senators and members of House of Reps getting involved in the implementation of projects directly.
And Mr. Showme, if you recall, one of them did say that Ningi's action was calculated to cause disaffection between lawmakers and the people. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and I think he was making reference.
Yes. Go ahead. Mr. Showme, go on.
Yeah, can I go on?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the issue of incitement, stems from the fact that Ningi made a direct, link between the 3 trillion naira, which is claiming has not been appropriated, was appropriated for without being tied to a particular project, and the North. That is playing, the North-South divide. A distinguished senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria cannot be seen to be inciting a section of the country against the other. And that's exactly, in my view, what Ningi tried to do. That is totally wrong. And those senators that pointed that out to Ningi are also correct. Senators are expected to behave in a distinguished way. They're expected to think about national interest and not just their own narrow interest. And in any case, when you take the budget and look at it, Ningi did not really have a leg to stand on because virtually every zones and every states in this country have one project or the other, appropriated for in that budget. So he did not actually cite examples of states where, or states or the whole North, where no project is going on. Of course, that is not correct. And it's that incitement that probably would irritate so many people. We need to come off this old politics. We have election came, we all knew what we went through at the last election. We need to draw a line behind it. Our senators and our people needs to be more united. We can be united in diversity. There's nothing wrong about that. But we need to be trying to build a country, not trying to split or continue to sustain, the North-South dichotomy. So the job of building a united Nigeria, prosperous Nigeria, is not just for the Nigerians themselves. Our lawmakers are expected to lead in that process. In my view, Ningi failed on this occasion.
Good place to anchor it. Mr. Biodun Showme, a social commentator who joined us from our studio in Abuja. Thank you very much, Mr. Showme. Sunrise, we'll be back in just a moment.
But before we take that just a moment, allow me to take this comment from the previous conversation, and I think it's related to this one as well, one way or the other. Mohammed Awal from Hadija in Jigawa wrote in mail, says, for all of us, security is for all of us, not just government. If you see something, say something. These kidnappers are in buses who supply them foodstuff, medicine, petrol, and vital information. And some unpatriotic Nigerians, beg your pardon, are some unpatriotic Nigerians. They used to pass villages before making attacks. Can't we inform security agencies? Thank you. That's from Awal, Mohammed Awal in Hadejia. This one also says, someone is drawing our attention to the fact that the president presented the 2024 budget estimate to be 27.5 trillion naira. And we also have this one. I would like to remind the guest in the studio that Senator Ningi should be commended for his courage to expose the padding, because it takes a lot to do so. He also says the guest is talking about motive. Who cares? All what Nigerians are after is people with such courage and determination to expose wrongdoings in the government. Because we have to stop all sorts of corruption. That's why we are still backward after 60 years of independence. I was totally disappointed. Well, that's from Abdul Qadir Abubakar. Well, I beg to differ with you on that one. We're not backward, we're just moving progress. We're just making progress a little slower than normal.
Moving slowly.
Well, moving.
Sunrise, we'll be right back with the lifestyle.
This segment. One is not slow. right after that.